Okay, what's being described as bad fiscal policy is the wreckage from the um, this medical tyranny shit. I could see how they're staging it and shit. It's just that most people are not gonna know what I'm talking about, and a lot of them is by choice. And for those, I'm done explaining some shit, especially if there's some shit on your mind, in your memory, that you can't bring it back. You can't bring it up to fucking help flesh out more clarity from a perspective. You just took yourself out the game. You just took yourself out, so you're not gonna disseminate anything. It's like the demiurge. Those are like dist- distraction. Distraction. Pompliano was talking about Elizabeth Warren. She's asking the Justice Department, to investigate big poultry. Big poultry. The worst thing that they ever did was hire some bunch of Mexicans. See, and then saying that it's her bad fiscal policy is the reason why it's not price gouging, and she's using the Justice Department to go after. I get that's all really raunchy and everything, but bad fiscal policy isn't just another word for saying that you got shook down. You got shook down because we're not supposed to address the opioid epidemic, and that's why everybody has the sniffles. See, and just because they're staging it out thoughtfully, they desensitized us through repetition or whatever, like the freaking magicians or whatever the shit. Like, and I explained that they're using sorority names, and they're using like lexicon derived from ancient mythologies. From like, how they do it fucking some of these colleges and shit, like teaching the students Aztec like blood sacrifice songs and shit. I don't know what the fuck, but this shit is like speaking to something, because like nothing's gonna happen if I talk to you or you talk to me. But if I allow someone to talk to a condition, or you allow me to speak to a concern or something like that, we might actually get somewhere. So like, why does Pompliano have to stop once exposing the hypocrisy? He cannot go further to say what I just said, which is an opioid epidemic. It's the shit that they're a distraction from, right? And they say we have to accept this bad fiscal policy because we think that is expeditious in finger wagging at these statesmen who will not remove the difficulty or the onus or the task away from the people, right? We want them to get fired, right? But they'll never go anywhere. They'll never get fired and shit. And we have to sit back and watch people ass kiss them when there should be an investigation, right? So, like, why don't we just go further? Like, I mean, he can't, he'll get demonetized. So he's just left it there. He left it at bad fiscal policy. But I could tell you that if they didn't have no reason to have bad fiscal policy, they would have the best fiscal policy to go along with with their legacy, and they would be able to come up with new exotic names for pathology other than the present year and the old name of the flu virus with some kind of sorority girl spin, some kind of fraternity sorority spin on it, or oh, it's from the Delta, so it's spooky, it's scary because like mosquitoes and jungle, like yellow fever and syphilitis and everything. Like, you can imagine, like, it's there's Panjaru fish that swim up your dick hole if you piss in a waterfall. So you can imagine that there's going to be some some specification and some like bacteria and microorganisms have the ability to change their DNA to have a reflex, RNA reflex that can go back and change their DNA. Right. So if you didn't know, the CRISPR software takes advantage of the sort of response auto. It's like programming an involuntary reaction, but it has the ability to make incisions and cut out proteins and replace it with a different protein, just like the bacteria, when its immune system is being challenged, has to change its DNA. It will plant another protein. It'll plant. So they're using the technology of that bacteria to make the incision, to make those changes, right? And it leaves it behind a telltale artifact, and that's how the Indian scientists were able to discover the proteins, the AIDS proteins and there's a tiny chance of contracting HIV from COVID, right? And I know that's like, people can't, at that point in time, people were just like, I can't process. Fake news. But I was watching your fake news channels, and it seemed like Britney Spears' conservatorship was getting covered on there. It seemed like a lot of things are going on around the world that you don't even know about gets covered on there. So while you're worried about protecting people from fake news, don't you understand? If there was a such thing as that, I would look at the fake news and the real news, because none of it is neither of it is fucking fake news or real news. You just need to get the perspective from as much of it as is available. Then your dissemination process won't be devaluated. Your assessment value will not be depreciated because you exercise. If you don't use it, you lose it. You know what I mean? And it's weird that there would have to be some sort of like cosmic force to be around and take account of all of this and get the energy from the transmission, right? And it is tenderizing for a new delicacy. Maybe it's just the fact that some humans think that new delicacy is for them to consume it. Then they get interceded upon, right? And it's another form of the energy coming from the people at that point in time. It could be just black backlash or ironic or whatever. But you never seen any Anunnaki, or you never seen any Archon or anything like that. And the Anunnaki didn't actually have like bird heads, and like those are depictions that express something about Anunnaki, but that's not how they really looked. You know what I mean? So just by nature of what YouTube is, that will tell you why they stopped. That will tell you why Pompliano stopped at exposing a hypocrisy and even a plot to throw a liable industry for some made-up boogeyman. Then we know it's bad fiscal policy, but what is the bad fiscal policy really? It's the lockdownism. That supply chain, what's that? Like, what there's the causes that cause these problems is not the my avatar, the really a 8-headed Hydra beast, right? But the Hydra beast is the principalities, right? It's like one head would be like Silicon Valley, one head is big pharma, one head is military industrial complex, or anything that we need at some point in time that we still know is going to become a problem. It's still going to become a problem if we don't get on top of it, if we don't get it under our control at some point. It's going to just be our puppet master, or we'll be dead, or whatever. It just represents a monster that'll eat you. We can't ever imagine that they wouldn't be our friends, So we have to make up boogeyman to go after instead. Instead of the opioid epidemic, we made up a boogeyman. It's big poultry. fucking chicken. Nice try on Anthony Pompliano trying to expose truth, but you can only go so far, and we know why. It's because of YouTube. Like, the fuck. But you're thinking that it just needs to be seeded into the public consciousness, and I'm not really trying to act like y'all stupid or anything, but I'm trying to trigger this thought process or something. Like, yeah, YouTube is really. Yeah, well, I don't even want to complain about YouTube anymore. I'm just looking for what's next, what's the next thing. I think that it can, well, before it could be broken up into more private, small more smaller websites or something, it would have to get new life first. That's gonna be a weird thing. What are they gonna do with this shit? Like, what are they gonna do with all the tight shit from the last couple decades that doesn't anybody want no more? You think anybody's trying to buy CBS right now? And for them to have to try to get it out the mud, I wonder what that means for a media company or like music labels and shit, because they can't feed on the same group of people. And like those, like their food sources is evolving and shit. And they're not, you know what I'm saying? That's why they have to try to buy all of this social media and shit, and try to get out in front of whatever it is going to be after, to get the attention of the masses. Like all those like MSNBC tried to do, it would become like MSNBCB, and then fucking, but then they have to have their fake competition, which is actually them too. So it'd be like Fox or something. The only way for them to get the appeal back is for them to pivot. And they will. That's what the thing. We don't think that they will pivot because they don't mind being wrong. It's the people will fucking fracture and snap. And they'll come another persona or something. They'll just slunk back out of some people's lives. They'll push certain people away so they can be a different persona. And I think it probably does cause a lot of fucking ruckus. Like, you can't just kill off whole industries and now expect people to be killed by it. I mean, there's some level. Like, certain things happen and they're not able to pay for operations and whatever, like, or somebody gets in a drinking habit and more addiction, more. You're like, fuck, man, this is gonna spark. It's gonna spiral. So after everything plays out and like a disease, everything runs its course. If you're still alive, are you gonna be like, oh, Elizabeth Warren, cool? Let's put our trust in this hoe, like. And so they already have shit dialed in. They know who's gonna, you know what I'm saying? They know who's not gonna be oblivious, and they know who's gonna remember and whatnot. And they're trying to social engineer through gaslight, or social engineer through a social credit score or whatever. We already have that kind of, in a way. We won't have the same kind of social credit score. Like, it'll have to be less overt, like, because we do things a little bit different, but it'll still be.